The Galactic Council chamber was silent in the moments before the humans arrived. The tall glass pillars glowed with soft blue light, and the sound of distant engines hummed through the structure. Many alien delegates waited with bored expressions, convinced this meeting would be like all the others. They believed humans would come, argue for a while, and then bend under pressure. For years, the Council had treated humanity as a young species that should obey the older civilizations. They thought humans were predictable. They thought humans could be pushed. They were wrong. Admiral Reyes entered the chamber with steady steps. His face was calm, but his eyes showed clear exhaustion. Months of negotiations had drained everyone on the human side. Behind him walked a small Team 3 diplomats and 2 security officers. They wore simple gray uniforms with the Earth emblem on the shoulder. The other species watched them with mixed reactions. Some sneered. Some whispered. Some simply waited for humans to give up. Reyes stood before the central table where representatives of different species sat. The Council High Speaker, a large creature with bright green eyes and thin metallic skin, started the meeting with a cold tone. The speaker announced that the anti-human resolution would be reviewed again. It demanded humans surrender mining rights on 3 systems, pay new taxes, and restrict their technological growth. It was a list made to humiliate and weaken Earth. Reyes listened without interrupting. He had heard these demands 100 times already. The speaker finished and waited with an arrogant smile. Expecting humans to beg or attempt to argue, Reyes spoke slowly, using simple words so every translator device would catch the meaning clearly. He said humanity had come with peaceful intentions. He said humans respected unity, fairness, and cooperation. But he also said something that made the entire chamber shift in discomfort. He said that the Council had stopped being fair. Some aliens scoffed loudly. One delegate laughed in a rude, sharp voice, calling humans emotional creatures who could not handle real politics. Another delegate said humans should be grateful for membership and accept whatever rules were given to them. Reyes did not respond to the insults. Instead, he requested access to a sealed file. It was a document the Council had tried to hide. A few hours earlier, human intelligence had discovered it. The file exposed the truth behind the anti-human resolution. Several species, afraid of human progress, had written a secret plan to slow Earth's development. They saw humans as a threat, not because humans were aggressive, but because humans were advancing too quickly. The older powers feared losing control. As the file appeared on the holographic display, the room erupted in chaos. Some delegates shouted in anger, others tried to deny it, and a few stayed silent because they had been part of the plot. Reyes waited for the noise to settle. When silence finally fell, he looked at the High Speaker and asked a simple question. He asked if this was the Council's idea of unity. The High Speaker tried to respond, but his words stumbled. He attempted to claim the document had been misunderstood. He tried to shift blame. He tried to act as if nothing serious had happened. But the truth was already visible to everyone. For a long moment, no one spoke. The tension felt heavy, as if the entire chamber had become smaller. Finally, Reyes gave the decision Earth had been forced to make. He said humans were leaving the negotiations. The entire chamber froze. A few delegates gasped. Others smirked, believing humans were bluffing. The High Speaker asked humans to reconsider, pretending to care about peace. But Reyes shook his head. He explained that humanity would no longer accept disrespect, hidden plots, or forced concessions. He explained that Earth had tried for years to build honest cooperation. Yet the Council kept treating them as tools rather than partners. He said humanity would not return until the Council learned respect. Then he turned around and walked away. His team followed without hesitation. The humans exited the chamber with calm, steady steps. They did not shout. They did not threaten. They did not look back. That made the moment even more powerful. As soon as the doors closed behind them, panic spread among the Council delegates. Some demanded humans be punished for their disobedience, but they had no strategy. Others worried about the consequences. A few understood the truth. Humans were not a small or dependent species anymore. Their absence would be felt. Outside the chamber, Reyes finally relaxed his shoulders. The weight of the decision was heavy, but he believed it was necessary. His team walked with mixed emotions. Some were angry. Some were hurt. Some were relieved that the endless pressure was finally over. When they reached their shuttle, Reyes activated a secure channel. A small hologram appeared, showing the symbol of Earth's Defense Command. He sent a single coded message, "Initiate Aegis." That message traveled across human space within seconds. On distant planets, military officers received the order and began waking systems that had been sleeping for months. Hidden satellites powered up, their dark surfaces reflecting starlight. Shipyards activated long production lines. Drones in deep space opened their eyes for the first time. The Aegis initiative had officially begun. The humans boarded their shuttle, and the engines lit with a soft blue glow. As the shuttle rose from the station's platform, Rhea stared at the stars ahead. The galaxy was wide, unpredictable, and full of danger. But Earth had survived worse. Humans knew how to adapt. They knew how to stand up when the universe pushed them down. Inside the council chamber, the arguments continued. The High Speaker tried to pretend everything was fine. He insisted that humans would eventually return because they needed the council. But deep inside, fear had started to grow. Without humans, important systems would become unstable. Trade routes would weaken. Security would drop. Small species would panic. The council was too proud to admit it. But humanity had become a central force in galactic stability. Meanwhile, the human shuttle prepared for slipstream jump. Reyes watched the stars stretch into long lines of white light. He remembered every insult thrown in the chamber. He remembered the arrogance, the disrespect, the lies. But he also remembered the allies humanity had made outside the council's reach. Neutral species who trusted humans because they saw their honesty and strength. In the quiet of the shuttle, Reyes promised himself something. Humanity would not seek revenge. They would not become conquerors. But they would never again ask for permission to grow. They would rise on their own, and the galaxy would learn that respect was not given to humans, it was earned by them. As the slipstream engines engaged, the shuttle disappeared into the deep dark, leaving behind a council full of confusion and fear. And far across human space, the Aegis initiative activated one system after another. Like stars turning on in the night sky, the news of humanity leaving the negotiations spread through the Galactic Council like a shockwave. Delegates whispered in corridors, news drones buzzed across the station, and small species looked frightened as rumors grew. Many had believed humans would eventually be forced into agreement. No one expected them to walk away, especially not with such calm confidence. Inside the council, tension rose. The High Speaker tried to reassure everyone, claiming humans would return. But his voice shook, and even his closest allies could hear the fear behind his speeches. Many planets depended heavily on human trade and security. Without humans, the balance of power began to tilt. On a small council-aligned world named Tirius, merchants discovered human medicine shipments were no longer arriving. The healing nanits humans produced were used by dozens of species, especially those with fragile biology. A shortage spread quickly, and clinics filled with patients who needed treatments only humans could provide. In another region, near the outer borders of council space, pirate gangs launched attacks on trade lanes. They had always feared human patrols because humans chased them relentlessly. But now that humans were gone, the pirates moved freely. Council fleets tried to control them, but they struggled. The pirates were fast, aggressive, and familiar with council ship patterns. Without human strategies and cooperation, the council ships fought with confusion and outdated tactics. Even worse, several small species began to panic. For years, humanity had protected them from stronger neighbors. Humans were known for defending weaker civilizations even when the council refused to act. These small species now felt abandoned. They looked around for help, but the council was too busy fighting internal arguments to notice their distress. Meanwhile, far from the council's chaos, humanity remained calm. The Aegis initiative was expanding with silent precision. Large satellites activated around human borders, creating a protective shield network. Automated shipyards built new vessels without rest. Patrol fleets moved into new formations, covering every weakness the Council had once criticized. Humans were not preparing for war, they were preparing for independence. In human space, life continued with determination. Refugees from unstable Council worlds arrived, asking for safety. Many came from species the Council had ignored for years. They feared hunger, disease, or attacks. Humanity welcomed them, offering shelter, food, and medical treatment. These displaced beings were shocked by how organized and compassionate humans were. In many Council stories, humans had been described as unpredictable and dangerous. But here they saw humans working day and night to help strangers with no expectation of reward. Ambassador Rias spent his days reviewing requests from neutral planets. Some asked for human trade agreements. Others wanted military cooperation. A few wanted to join humanity's new alliance that was slowly forming. Reyes felt conflicted because he never wanted humans to compete with the Council. But after the Council's betrayal, humanity could not trust them blindly anymore. In the Council chamber, things grew worse. Delegates blamed one another for the crisis. Some argued that humans should be punished. Others argued humans should be invited back immediately. A few insisted that humans had always been troublemakers. But as days passed, it became clear that the galaxy had relied on humanity far more than anyone admitted. The first economic signs of collapse appeared within a week. Human technology companies had provided key parts for starship engines and agricultural machines. Without those parts, many planets could not repair their equipment. Food production dropped sharply on several worlds. Trade ships stayed grounded. Millions of citizens across the Council felt the consequences. Council leaders held emergency meetings, trying to create new plans. But they lacked unity. They had never learned to work together without relying on humans as a stabilizing force. Distrust grew until delegates refused to sit in the same room with their rivals. The Council's proud halls became a place of fear and frustration. Some species attempted to contact humanity secretly, hoping to rebuild relationships on their own. But humans replied politely, explaining they would discuss cooperation only once Earth completed its internal restructuring. In truth, they were careful. They wanted to avoid giving the Council any leverage. They needed time to strengthen themselves fully. Reyes watched the galaxy's reaction with a quiet sadness. He had hoped the Council would try to rebuild trust honestly. Instead, they argued and accused each other. He wondered if they would ever understand why humans left. Humanity wanted respect, not dominance. They wanted fairness, not control. But the Council had mistaken kindness for weakness. In a distant star system near the Galactic Rim, a new problem was rising. A militant species known as the Vakror Empire noticed the Council's weakness. For decades, the Vakror had avoided expansion because humans were watching them. But now that humans were gone, the Vakror began sending fleets into neighboring territories. Small colonies fell quickly, their defenses unable to resist the Vakror's harsh strategies. Panic spread as the Empire's flag appeared on star maps again. Some Council delegates argued that the Vakror threat proved they needed humans back. Others claimed they could defeat the Empire without help. But none of their fleets succeeded. Every battle ended in retreat or heavy losses. While the Council struggled, humanity's alliances grew stronger. Neutral species who had avoided the Council for years finally saw humanity's true value. They admired the discipline and honor humans displayed. They admired how humans protected refugees without expecting anything in return. Many of them offered trade agreements, scientific cooperation, and cultural exchanges. Slowly, a quiet shift took place in the galaxy. Species who once doubted humans now followed their example. They enforced fair laws. They protected weaker planets. They shared resources instead of hoarding them. It was as if humanity's absence had shown the galaxy what true leadership looked like. Back on Earth, Reyes met with the leaders of the Aegis Initiative. They reviewed reports from new border stations, updated defense lines, and growing diplomatic partnerships. The leaders felt confident but cautious. They had no interest in conquering or dominating the galaxy. They simply wanted to protect human space and create a future free from manipulation, Reyes often thought, about the moment he walked out of the council chamber. He remembered the silence, the shock, the disbelief. He wondered if the council had learned anything from that day. But when he read the reports of their ongoing arguments, he doubted it. Still, he believed the galaxy would eventually understand humanity's decision. Humans were not running away. They were choosing a path that allowed them to stand proudly. They were choosing to build trust where it was deserved, not where it was demanded. And while the council's influence weakened, humanity's strength grew. Not through force, but through the respect they earned from those who saw their true intentions. In the quiet darkness of space, the Aegis satellites formed a protective ring around human worlds. The new fleets trained with precision. Human space was peaceful, secure, and ready for whatever challenges would come next. The council, meanwhile, felt the consequences of their arrogance growing heavier each day. They had pushed humans away, believing Earth would return in desperation. Instead, humanity was rising higher than ever, and the galaxy was beginning to notice. The Aegis initiative spread through human space like a silent storm. Systems that had once depended on the Galactic Council now ran under a new structure, organized, efficient, and completely independent. Large stations floated above planets, glowing softly as they activated new shields. Fleets of drones patrolled the borders, scanning for threats. Shipyards worked day and night, producing new vessels with calm precision. Everything moved smoothly, without political drama or interference. From orbit, the human worlds looked peaceful. But beneath that peace was a strong, growing power. Humanity had prepared for this moment long before the Council understood what was happening. They had known the Council might one day try to limit their progress. So humanity built Aegis as a promise to themselves, a promise that they would never again allow others to control their future. Ambassador Reyes stood inside the main command station, watching through the large viewport as ships moved in perfect formation. The new generation of human vessels were smaller but stronger, equipped with advanced shields and long-range scanners. They were built not for conquest but for stability. Reyes admired the calm discipline of every crew. They worked with purpose, knowing the galaxy was watching them. Reports arrived every hour. Some brought good news: new allies, new trade routes, new partnerships. Others brought troubling updates. The Vakra Empire was expanding. Pirates were becoming more violent, and the Council still refused to admit their mistakes. Reyes read each message with a steady mind. He never allowed fear or anger to cloud his judgment. Reyes believed humanity needed patience more than anything. The galaxy was unstable. The Council was distracted. If humanity pushed too hard, things could collapse even further. So Reyes focused on strengthening human space first. That was the heart of the Aegis initiative. Across the border, neutral species watched with curiosity. They had expected humans to react with aggression or arrogance after leaving the Council. But instead, they saw calm and organized growth. Humans were not building an empire. They were building security. One of these neutral species, the Avari, sent a group of diplomats to Earth. They came from a culture that valued honesty and responsibility. When they arrived, they were surprised by the transparency of human leadership. The Avari were used to the Council's slow decisions and endless debates. Here, humans solved problems quickly. Without confusion or hidden political gains, the Avari asked why humanity had not retaliated against the Council for their disrespect. Reyes explained that revenge brought nothing but chaos. He said humanity wanted progress, not destruction. His words spread across the Avari worlds, and soon they requested a formal alliance. They admired humanity's restraint and discipline. In human space, refugees from Council territories continued to arrive. Many were from species the Council had ignored. The refugee ships came damaged, low on food, and carrying frightened families. Humans welcomed them without hesitation. Medical teams worked tirelessly. Volunteers provided food, blankets, and safe shelter. The refugees cried with relief. Shocked by the kindness, some of the younger refugees had grown up hearing Council propaganda about humans being unstable and dangerous. But here they saw humans helping strangers with warm smiles and gentle voices. They saw soldiers carrying injured children. They saw engineers repairing broken refugee ships for free. Their fear slowly turned into admiration. Meanwhile, in the Council's central station, the situation grew worse. Without humans, crime increased. Trade slowed. Medical supplies became scarce. Delegates argued constantly, blaming each other for everything. Some wanted to bring humans back by offering them apologies. Others refused, saying it would make the Council look weak. The High Speaker tried to calm them, but his voice no longer held authority. Every decision he made ended in another disagreement. Council fleets were confused, uncoordinated, and losing ground to the Vakra Empire's expansion. During this chaos, a secret meeting took place between several council members. They discussed the possibility that humanity might be building a rival alliance. One delegate claimed humans were preparing for war. Another argued that humans were gathering too many allies. Their fear made them imagine threats where there were none, but one old delegate spoke calmly. He said the council had misjudged humans from the beginning. He said humans had offered partnership, not dominance. He said the council's arrogance had pushed humanity away. His words were met with silence. Some delegates finally began to understand. Back in human space, the Aegis defense stations performed a full activation. The large orbital network formed a protective shell around key worlds. Each station was connected to the others, sharing data instantly. This made human borders nearly impossible to breach. The galaxy had never seen anything like it. Admiral Singh, commander of the Aegis fleet, watched the activation from her flagship. She had served in many council peacekeeping missions over the years. She knew how slow and inefficient the council could be. But here, under the Aegis initiative, every officer moved with precision. She felt proud not because of power, but because humanity had finally taken control of its destiny. Singh reviewed the latest reports. A Vakra scouting fleet had approached the outer border but turned away after detecting Aegis defenses. Pirates avoided human space entirely. Even hostile species respected the humans' new strength, but Singh worried about the refugees still arriving. The Council's weakness was affecting millions. She wondered how long humanity could handle the growing crowds. Resources were limited, and humans had to avoid appearing as though they were replacing the Council openly. That could start a political war. Reyes shared her concerns. In a private meeting, they discussed the future. Reyes suggested sending humanitarian missions to border worlds, not as political statements but as simple acts of help. Singh agreed. She believed humanity's strength came not just from technology but from compassion. Within days, several humanitarian fleets departed from Earth. They brought medicine, food, and engineers to rebuild damaged settlements. The refugees and frontier species watched in awe as humans worked tirelessly. They repaired homes, restored power stations, and protected villages from pirate attacks. No Council fleet had done this in years. News of the missions spread across star systems. Many species began openly questioning the Council's leadership. They asked why humans, who had been mistreated, were doing more for the galaxy than the Council ever had. They asked why the Council allowed suffering when solutions were possible. The Council leadership grew nervous. They feared losing power. But they refused to admit their mistakes. Meanwhile, neutral worlds began contacting humanity daily. Some requested trade routes. Others wanted military training. A few even asked if they could join humanity's growing alliance. Reyes approved some of these requests carefully. He avoided creating a large political bloc too quickly. Humanity's goal was stability, not domination. Despite the growing pressure, humans continued to avoid any aggressive action. Their fleets stayed within borders. Their diplomacy remained honest. Their humanitarian missions helped without demanding anything in return. Everything about humanity's actions showed quiet strength, but the galaxy could feel the change. The balance of power was shifting. Humanity's calm rise contrasted sharply with the Council's chaotic decline. As the Aegis network completed its third phase, Reyes stood before a holographic map of human space. Dozens of bright lights marked new stations, outposts, and alliances. He felt relief, but also responsibility. Humanity had stepped into a new era, an era where their actions could shape the galaxy for generations. He knew the Council would eventually call for help. They had no choice. The Vakra Empire was still growing. Pirates still attacked their borders. Trade routes were collapsing. Food shortages were worsening. And they no longer had the powerful human fleets to protect them. Reyes exhaled slowly, understanding what was coming. Humanity did not want revenge, but the consequences of the councils. Arrogance were only beginning, and the Aegis Initiative was ready for whatever came next. The consequences of humanity's departure from the Galactic Council became clearer with every passing day. What had first seemed like a temporary disruption turned into a spreading crisis that touched every corner of council space. The council members, once confident in their power, now moved through their grand halls with worry in their eyes and doubt in their voices. Food shortages hit mid-range agricultural worlds first. They had depended heavily on human-built farming machines that were efficient and easy to maintain. Without human parts, the machines broke down faster. Fields dried, crops withered, and entire cities struggled to fill their stores. Some planets tried to purchase human replacements through third parties, but the prices were too high, and supplies too limited. Medical crises followed soon after. Human nanites and antiviral packs had been some of the most effective treatments in the galaxy. They worked even on species with extremely sensitive biology. Without them, old illnesses returned and new ones spread quickly. Hospitals overflowed. Doctors begged the Council for solutions, but the Council had none. Meanwhile, pirate activity reached a level that had not been seen in decades. The criminals had always feared human patrol ships, but those ships no longer protected Council borders. Council fleets attempted to fill the gap, but their old tactics were clumsy and predictable. Pirates studied them, learned their patterns, and exploited every weakness. Entire trade routes were lost in a matter of days. Ships filled with food, medicine, and fuel were hijacked. Colonies that depended on those supplies fell into chaos. Many small species who lived on fragile worlds begged for help, but the Council bureaucracy moved too slowly. The High Speaker called emergency meetings, but delegates only argued about who was responsible. In the middle of this growing disaster, a new threat rose. The Vakra Empire, sensing weakness, launched full attacks on Council territory. Their heavy ships tore through small colonies with brutal efficiency. Civilian outposts, poorly defended, surrendered immediately. Council leaders panicked. They had always relied on humans to contain the Vakra. Without humanity's support, the frontier worlds fell one after another. The Council tried to respond with a massive fleet, but the Vakra crushed them. Entire cruisers were lost, and survivors reported terrifying discipline among Vakra soldiers. They moved with purpose, taking advantage of every gap left by Council retreat. News of the defeat spread quickly. Fear filled the Council chamber. Species who once praised themselves as powerful now admitted they had underestimated the Vakra threat. They also realized they had underestimated humanity. In human space, the Aegis Initiative continued to grow stronger. New defense stations powered up daily. More refugee ships arrived, and human volunteers worked tirelessly to support them. In the sky above Earth, long lines of cargo ships moved in perfect order, carrying supplies to rebuilding worlds. Ambassador Reyes reviewed each report with quiet focus. He wished things had been different. He wished the Council had chosen cooperation instead of arrogance. But he also knew humanity could not return to the old system. Too much damage had been done. Neutral species who once avoided politics turned toward humanity for help. They trusted humans because humans had proven, time and time again, that they valued honesty over power. That trust created small alliances, then larger ones. Slowly, without intention to dominate, humans became the center of a new diplomatic network. One day, a message arrived from a Council colony called Delmaris. It was a desperate call for help. Their defenses had collapsed under Vakra attack. Thousands of civilians were trapped. The Council had promised to help, but no fleet had arrived. Reyes felt the weight of the message deeply. He knew the political risks. If humanity intervened, the Council might accuse them of trying to take over. But if humanity did nothing, innocent lives would be lost. After a long conversation with Admiral Singh, they made the decision humanity would help. Within minutes, the Aegis fleet deployed. The ships moved like a single being, quick, disciplined, and prepared. They jumped into Delmarus orbit and immediately engaged the Vakra forces. The battle was fast and decisive. Human ships used advanced shields and precise targeting systems, overwhelming the Vakra with clean, controlled strikes. In less than an hour, the Vakra retreated. When human ships landed, civilians cried with relief. They had expected death. Instead, they found safety. Human soldiers delivered medical supplies, food, and water. Engineers repaired damaged infrastructure. Refugee transports evacuated the injured to human space. The Council finally noticed. Reports of the rescue arrived in the chamber within hours. Some delegates felt ashamed. Others felt threatened. A few accused humanity of interfering in Council territory. The High Speaker called an emergency meeting and tried to speak with authority, but his words sounded hollow. Everyone in the chamber knew the truth. Humanity had done in 1 hour what the Council had failed to do in weeks. For the first time, several delegates openly questioned the Council's decisions. How had they driven away the species that protected the galaxy? How had they ignored humanity's warnings? Their voices spread through the chamber, shaking old alliances and old assumptions. Meanwhile, humanity continued its humanitarian missions. They rescued colonies on the edge of collapse, stopped pirate raids, and delivered medicine to dying worlds, all without demanding payment or loyalty. Their actions reached millions and changed opinions across the galaxy. Small species, once ignored by the Council, began to send messages of gratitude to Earth. Some even requested to join the Aegis security network. Others offered resources or scientific cooperation in return for protection. Reyes accepted each offer carefully. Humanity was growing stronger, but they did not want to build an empire. They wanted stability. They wanted peace, but the Council, growing desperate, did not see it that way. Behind closed doors, Council leaders debated strategies to regain control. Some wanted to threaten humanity. Others wanted to beg for forgiveness. A few believed humanity should be invited back with full respect, but before any decision could be made, a new disaster struck. The Vakra Empire launched the largest attack in its history. 5 massive fleets crashed into Council space, destroying defenses and capturing key worlds. Entire civilizations fell into chaos. The Council chamber erupted in terror. Their fleets had no chance. Their strategies were outdated. Their unity was gone. For the first time since humanity left, the Council admitted the truth. They needed humans. The High Speaker sent a formal message to Earth, asking for a meeting. His voice trembled with desperation. He asked for help. He asked for cooperation. He asked for forgiveness. The message reached Reyes late at night. He stood silently for a long moment, staring at the glowing hologram. He knew this moment was inevitable. Humanity did not want revenge. But the galaxy was in danger. Reyes called Admiral Singh and the leaders of the Aegis Initiative. Together, they discussed their next steps. They would not return to the Council as weak partners. They would return as equals. Humanity had earned that right. As the Aegis fleets prepared for their largest deployment yet, one thing became clear across the galaxy: the old balance of power was gone, and the consequences of the Council's arrogance had finally reached their peak. The invasion of the Drathan Collective struck the Galactic Council harder than anyone expected. Their war fleets swept across border systems with brutal efficiency, overwhelming defenses that once seemed strong enough for any threat. Worlds that had lived in peace for decades found themselves under attack, their leaders fleeing to safer regions as millions of civilians evacuated. The Council had spent so many years arguing over politics that they had forgotten how to prepare for a real enemy. Now, with panic spreading and fleets falling back, they faced a truth many wished they could ignore. Without humans, they stood little chance of stopping the Drathan on the planet Helion Prime. The Council's emergency meeting room buzzed with fear. Ambassadors shouted over each other, demanding reinforcements, supplies, or evacuation ships for their people. Chancellor Veckler tried to control the chaos, but his voice was lost in the noise. Reports kept coming: cities destroyed, fleets retreating, colonies bombed. The Drathan moved like a wave, burning everything in their path. In a corner of the chamber, Ambassador Jorah watched the panic. He remembered how different things looked when humanity was still part of the Council. When a crisis appeared, humans always responded quickly, without fear or hesitation. They had a strange courage that other species admired and feared. They did not wait for approval or endless debate. They acted. Now that same courage was far away behind a wall of pride and broken trust. Finally, a message from a frontier world arrived on the main display. A Drathan fleet had surrounded the planet, and the local council begged for help their defenders could not provide. Ambassador Jorah stood and raised his voice above the shouting. "We need to ask the humans again," he said, this time sincerely. The room fell quiet. No one wanted to admit it, but deep down they knew he was right. The Chancellor ordered a second message, sent this one humble, honest, and desperate. It asked not for trade or negotiations. It asked for help. Nothing more. When the message reached Earth, Admiral Reyes read it in silence. Behind him, large transparent screens displayed movements of human fleets, Aegis satellites and allied refugee ships entering protected space. Humanity was stronger than ever, working with smaller species who had come to them willingly. They did not need the Council now, but they understood the danger the Drathan posed. If the Council collapsed entirely, the Drathan would eventually reach human borders. Reyes called a meeting with the Earth Leadership Council. They discussed the risks, the past insults, and the future of the galaxy. In the end, they reached a simple conclusion: humanity would not ignore suffering. Even when those who suffered had once mocked them, a single reply was sent back to the Galactic Council. It stated that humanity would assist, but only as an equal power, not as a member carrying burdens while others enjoyed the benefits. The Council accepted immediately. They had no pride left to protect. Within hours, the Aegis initiative shifted into full deployment. Automated shipyards produced new warships, drones, and planetary shields at incredible speed. Human fleets emerged from hyperspace tunnels, arriving near threatened worlds before Council reinforcements even departed. The first battle took place at Varnus Station, where a small Council force was pinned down by a massive Drathan fleet. The Drathan commander mocked the humans when their ships appeared, assuming the old propaganda was true that humans were weak, slow, and easily crushed. But the first volley from the human fleet proved otherwise. Energy beams cut through Drathan armor. Guided missiles bypassed shields with precise calculations. Aegis drones swarmed enemy vessels, disabling engines and weapons before they could fire back. The battle lasted less than an hour. When it was over, the Drathan ships were wreckage floating in silent space. The surviving Council crew watched in disbelief. They had heard rumors about humanity's new technology, but had never imagined this level of power. On planet after planet, human fleets arrived just in time to stop invasions. They did not boast, demand tribute, or claim territory. They simply fought until civilians were safe and the enemy was pushed back. Refugees cried with relief when they saw human ships descending through the clouds, bringing food, medicine, and protection. Soon the Council worlds began calling humanity their shield. Messages of gratitude poured into human space. Species that once considered humans unpredictable now saw them as steady and dependable. Even the ambassadors who had insulted humanity in the negotiation chamber felt shame and guilt. As the war continued, the Drathan realized they were no longer facing a divided galaxy. They were facing humanity, a species that refused to abandon anyone, even former rivals. When the final Drathan stronghold collapsed under combined human and Council fire, peace finally returned. A month later, the Galactic Council gathered for a historic meeting. The chamber was repaired, the damage from past chaos cleaned, but the mood was different. When Admiral Reyes entered, every ambassador stood. Not out of fear, but out of respect, Chancellor Veckler stepped forward and spoke with a steady voice. "We made mistakes," he said. We failed to appreciate your contributions, your honesty, and your strength. Because of our pride, the galaxy suffered. Because of your courage, the galaxy survives. We offer our apology, and we offer a new partnership, one built on equality, trust, and shared responsibility. Reyes looked around the room. He remembered the day humanity walked out, the insults, the arrogance, and the laughter. But he also remembered the refugees they had helped, the alliances they had built, and the battles they had won together. Humanity did not seek dominance. They wanted fairness and cooperation. We accept, Reyes said simply. But things will be different now. The Council agreed without hesitation. Over the next years, humanity led many new programs: protection for smaller species, fair trade policies, and strict anti-slavery laws. Human engineers helped rebuild damaged worlds. Human diplomats resolved old conflicts with patience. And human soldiers trained Council forces to be stronger and more united. The galaxy changed slowly but surely. Stability returned. Trade grew. Fear faded. And everywhere, from distant colonies to great capital worlds, people told the same story. The Council lost everything when they pushed humans away, and regained hope only when humans returned, not for glory, but for peace. Humanity earned a new reputation across the stars. Not as warriors or troublemakers, not as newcomers who needed guidance, but as protectors. As leaders. As the species that stood firm when the galaxy needed them most. And the Galactic Council never forgot the lesson. When humans quit negotiations, the galaxy learned the consequences. When humans returned, the galaxy learned to respect.